Excellent. Good evening. Thanks for everybody for coming. At this time, could everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fantastic. Could we have a call to order and a roll call, please?
Okay, Chairman Michael Wrench,
Present.
Vice Chair Dave Bartles,
Here.
Secretary Jan Coonan here, Alderwoman Sherry Hanneman,
Here.
Commissioner Mary Remington,
Here.
Commissioner Karen Milwaukee,
Here.
and then Kevin Schluter,
Here.
Associate Planner Marion X,
Here.
Alderman, your brother, Dave, Dan Meyer, they only have D there, Alderman Wilhelm, and Engineer Glenn Morrow,
Here.
and Dale Borcher, DPW.
Here.
And, Shelley, a non-voting member, ex officio, Michelle Runty.
Here.
Fantastic. At this time, we're going to jump around on the agenda a little bit. I notice we have a few people in the crowd today. I guess the first thing we'll skip to is the approval of the meeting minutes from the meeting on February 14th, 2022.
There's a correction to this. There's a note under, do you know what I know what, Kevin? The Kevin Schluter is listed as having made a suggestion about grant funding for the concerts in the park item, and it was actually Alderwoman Hanneman.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They need to be amended.
Sure.
Thank you, Mary.
I'll see that one.
I'll move to accept the minutes with the correction.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Fantastic. We will move ahead to item number 5, new business. First thing on the agenda is a request by Alderman Dan Mayer to install a flagpole in Market Square Park. Alderman, how you doing?
Good, Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Wonderful.
Quick
Thank you.
handout here for you. I didn't know if we were going to have any visual support, so I put this together. Okay. Just okay, thank you for hearing me tonight. Thank you for letting me talk about this. First of all, thank you guys all for doing the job that you do. I think the Park Commission is one of the most important commissions we have, especially when you think about the vision and the future we want for Franklin. I think decisions that you guys make are really going to prove to be some of the most important in the future. So thank you for what you do as an alderman and as a soon-to-be ordinary citizen in 2 weeks. So thank you for your service. What you have in front of you is a little bit of an illustration of the flag in St. Martin. If you look at the first page on the top left, that's what it looks like today. And Glenn and I have been talking about this since St. Martin's Road was repaved 8 years ago, about doing something. And that's where the flagpole was. We wanted to keep it there, but there's really not much place for it there. So the top left is where it is today. Top middle is what it looked like in 1942 when it was moved to that location. It had a veterans board in back of it at that time for honoring the veterans. And then the top right is actually its original position, which was over a bit to the I guess it would be the south of where it is currently. So it's already been moved once. And I think the Market Square, which has gone by other names too over the years, I think it was also the Town Square and Village Square things, I think it came all the way up there. So I think the flag originally was close to the end of the Market Square when you look at the top right picture. The bottom of the front page is a map trying to give you an orientation. And on the bottom of the map is a purple line, purple highlight on Church Street. Glenn's plan is to have a sidewalk there by Labor Day, where the purple line is. So ideally what I'm asking for is to move the flag from its current position on the top left in the front page to one of the positions, or at your pleasure, some other position at the Market Square. I think I just put some Dots on the picture on the second page, possible proposals of where it could go. And I think this could then be its permanent home. Where it is now on St. Martin's Road, the city doesn't really control the area around it. It's not really within the city's control. It's private property. It's not a good location. This would move it to a location where it is under the city's control in a public park. I think it would be a nice welcome addition to the Market Square. And so what I'm asking for is probably not to get a specific location tonight, but to get a somewhat approval of the concept. And then as Glenn works through this, if it can come back to parks at some point, you can decide on a permanent position. I think a plaque would certainly be appropriate in that location as well. Actually, from a personal note, my grandmother raised and lowered the flag every day during the Korean War and during the Vietnam War in the position it is. So I have a little bit of a connection to this flag as well. So at any rate, it's not doing anything where it is. It needs to be moved. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be, something needs to be done with it. And I think it'd be appropriate to move it to the Market Square.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Would this flag be lighted, or would it be raised and lowered on a daily basis?
No, I think it would be lighted. Glenn would be able to answer that hopefully better than me. But where it is currently, I don't think there's any possibility of electricity. Sure. If it's by the Market Square, there is electricity to the gazebo. I would think it would be a doable thing to get a light there.
Sure.
I agree, it would need to be lighted and not raised and lowered every day.
Yeah.
And that current flagpole's in good condition, easy enough, can handle a move, we don't need a new pole, we're just looking to relocate that one?
I doubt it. I think it would probably need to be, it's from 1942.
Okay.
so I
Sure.
think-
Oh, it's that,
Pretty rough.
okay. So we're talking a new pole, not relocating
Yeah.
an existing.
So
Thank you.
a new pole with a concrete, we're looking probably what, like $5,000, roughly?
I would think.
Okay. I think the idea is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Kevin just mentioned to me that, and I apologize for not knowing this, but across the street, is this little triangle part, is there a flagpole right there?
There is. That's the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I have talked to them a couple of times, and I asked if they thought there would be any kind of a conflict if we put a flag across the street, and their attitude is, who would not want more flags? So yeah, they're on board with it.
Would we want to put it in with theirs is theirs lit?
That's not city property, that's their property.
Oh, okay.
And I think part of the idea is to get it on city property so it can be properly maintained for the rest of its existence.
Sure.
As an aside, I don't suppose that veterans word has been preserved anywhere?
No, it hasn't. Actually, it was moved from that location that's in the middle picture on the front, down the road to next to the, what used to be Holy Assumption in a vacant area there. And it just kind of deteriorated over the years, and it was, I don't know what ultimately happened to it.
Is this something you'd like to have installed at some point this year, moved and located, or?
That would be up to Glenn when he can work it out. His plan is to get the sidewalk in by Labor Day. I was hoping that this could be a project that could kind of coincide with that,
Sure.
but that'd be up to when Glenn can fit it in. I guess the approval or the support of it is what I'm really looking for.
Okay. I'll go ahead,
I
Glenn.
can do research on cost of the flagpole and pavers and such. I guess I'd appreciate knowing what blue dot you prefer.
Be careful. Some of the, like,
Oh, go right ahead.
some of the locations you got, nothing, no offense, nothing.
No, I know, and
Because we got St. Martin's Fair, we got police and
Yes.
fire trailers,
Yes,
we got
absolutely.
restrooms. So-
they're not by any means exact locations.
Okay, yeah. And then if I could just say, no offense, Dan, I'm all for the flag, but, more maintenance and.
Mhm. Some
lowering
things
and
are,
raising,
I completely understand that, but some things are worth it.
How many flagpoles does the city currently have in parks?
and window.
That's it?
How many?
just Ken Wendell. Right.
Okay.
And that was probably there from when it was a fire station?
Okay. I think I support the idea of this project, knowing that it would be lighted, it wouldn't have to be taken up or down every day. It would require a trip for somebody to raise and lower, but maybe that's something that could be worked out with, you know, different, I don't know if the fire department or police department in their travels can do that as well, going through there.
How often would that have to be?
Whenever flags get moved to like half mast,
Half staff.
yeah,
Oh, just then, it wouldn't have to be taken down
no.
every,
I mean, you'd have to replace it probably 2 to 3 times a year depending on weather, but
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess you've got to realize the flagpole is there now,
Mhm.
it's not doing anything, and we've got to do something with it. And I
Right.
think it's just not right to just take it down and not right to just leave it rot away there.
And I'm supportive of this as well. I'm just wondering from a budget allocation standpoint where we would squeak that out for this year.
Well, it's not in the budget.
No.
Wouldn't qualify for impact fees,
Mm-mm.
so we just have to, would be a contingency.
And that would be up to the council then,
Right.
to spend that kind of money. So,
And at this point, we don't know how much we're talking.
That could price out a flagpole and pavers and some other issues.
I'm trying to think how to craft a motion then.
Perhaps you might want to direct staff to explore the idea, come up with a plan and budget.
Okay. I will move to direct staff to explore a plan and possible budget allocation to install a flagpole in Market Square Park located at 11230 West Franklin Street.
I will
I-
second.
excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you all very
Thank you.
much.
You seconded it?
I did.
What about removal though, the existing one?
Probably have to be wrapped into the cost.
We have to put that in the cost?
It's on private property.
Yeah.
We're not sure if it's on public or private property. I'll have to check that.
That was part of the issue with the
Yeah.
whole flag as well. A little bit of a conflict there
Sure,
possibly.
gets
so
confusing.
I'll leave that up to the line.
Excellent. Caught up.
Good idea.
Kind of.
We'll continue with the new business. Item B, request by Thomas Wilde, City of Franklin resident, to install birdhouses in Ernie Lake Park. We were going to come right back to that. Is Thomas here?
I'm here.
Sure.
Which one are we on?
Is it Wilde or Wilde?
Wilde.
All right, sorry about that.
That's all right. I get the wrong one more than the right one.
So I understand you had installed some birdhouses on some trees there and they were removed?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago I retired and my wife said I had too many hobbies, so I looked for another one. And I started making birdhouses for our property. I live in Mackenzie Square, which is on the other side of the trail from the parkway. And we've got several of our neighbors, including myself, who have put up a lot of bird feeders with the idea of bringing in the songbirds. And then to supplement that, I started building birdhouses and putting them on our property. I put a few up. And we attracted wrens and good birds. And last year, I did a few more, and I put 2 that are actually were in the park property, and I mounted them on the trees with wires, no nails, no harm to the trees. The birdhouses are designed for wrens or sparrows or finches or nuthatches, so small birds. And they were hanging there throughout the summer. and between the ones on our property along the trail and those two, and I sit on my deck, my wife and I sit on the deck and we listen to the kids and the parents talking about the beautiful birdhouses and whatever. So a couple of weeks ago, I noticed the ones in the park were down, but thankfully, whoever took them down, it must have been a city employee because they were kind enough to put them on our property, realizing that somebody on our property must have made them, so they were still salvageable. I'd like to put some more up. Last year, I didn't ask for permission, frankly, because I just didn't think it was necessary. Sorry about that. But tonight, I'm asking if it would be a problem to put a few more up.
Do you have certain locations in mind?
I do. The bigger trees and taller, they can't be hassled by kids or whatever. I just bring out my little 7-foot ladder and mount them high enough so they're not touchable by most. And I put them on the bigger trees where they're going to, not blow around or be damaged. I don't have a specific number. The two I had were adjacent to the pond, right on the pathway, so they were very visible. I'd probably put those two back up if I had permission, and maybe a couple more in similar situations.
Okay. And what type of material do you use to construct these?
I'm using pine. That way there's not a lot of cost. The first ones I built 4 years ago are just as good as the day I built them.
Okay.
I do urethane them, the outside of them. And the ones, actually I am painting them. They're pretty colorful and nice looking. And then I urethane over them. And the ones I put up, like I said, they look like they did the day I put them out.
Okay.
And I do look at them I looked at them last fall, I should say. And I would continue to look at them at the end of the season and take down anything that's damaged or repair it. And I also cleaned them out.
Okay.
It's just a little personal project.
Sure. I know that we have a different agenda item on the meeting here today to try to talk about a formal policy as far as things being added to the parks, whether if it's birdhouses or little free libraries or things along those lines. To make sure that there's nothing being added to DPW's plate. I mean, they're overwhelmed as it is with what they have. We'd like to come up with a more consistent policy of materials and locations and how everything goes. I believe is the direction we're looking to head in. But anybody have any thoughts? Or?
Do we know who removed the last ones? And was it just because it was not authorized, or was there an issue with a maintenance issue, a problem with the trees? Was it just?
We removed them just
Yeah.
because we knew nothing about them.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, thank you for returning them to the property.
Yeah, we just, have to keep it under control. So
Mhm.
if we don't know about something, we
No, absolutely.
remove it.
Absolutely. Well, I think at this point, unless anybody else has thoughts, I'd probably like to table this item until next time, and then later today we can have a discussion about policies and materials and all that, if that makes sense. I'd hate to have you come back another time, but we'd like to get our policies in line with what DPW can actually maintain and keep up with, if that makes sense. Excellent. Well, we'll make sure we add you to the April meeting, and hopefully we'll have some solid answers for you then.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Thank you for coming,
Thank
though.
you. Sure.
Continuing with the new items on the agenda, we'll go to C. Franklin Community Education and Recreation Department requests to reserve the pickleball courts at Lions Legend 2 for spring and summer 2022. Requested dates are Monday through Thursday evenings, 5:30 to 8 p.m., April 18th to June 16th, and then again from June 27th to August 18th, and Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11:30, April 23rd through June 18th, and June 25th through August 20th. Do we have anyone from the rec department here today?
They did let me know that they had a conflict and were not able to attend this evening, so you can choose to discuss the item without their input or move forward. They do have an additional request that'll be on your next agenda.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I think the only concern or comment that I have is if any Franklin resident wanted to go play pickleball at those parks from Monday or Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 8, the courts are they're very limited and unavailable. And then it appears to be the same thing all day Saturday, or at least in the mornings. That's the only concern that I can see. I know we've allowed it in the past, but with the popularity and continued meeting presence of the pickleball people, I think it's something we have to continue to bring up and address.
My concern that if we don't make a decision this evening one way or another, their season is beginning April 18th, so if we leave it until the April meeting, it's going to be cutting it pretty close in terms of them. My inclination right now would be to go ahead and approve it, but we may need to give them a heads up that maybe this isn't always going to be the situation. I feel to deny it at this point, especially since I believe this has already been published in the community rec registration. To deny it at this point would maybe cause a lot of confusion and ill feelings that might not be necessary, but I do agree that maybe it's something we need to consider, and as hopefully more pickleball courts, i.e. Fleming Park, come online. I don't know when at that point this year, but then maybe we can kind of relook at that.
So currently we have, Taylor County, there's 5 pickleball courts there? 4? I'm just wondering if we can put in there that if we could leave one open where they could utilize 3 and leave one open for the public, and if nobody comes, they can try to use it that way, if that makes sense.
Not knowing enough about
Yeah.
pickleball and how I know they rotate and need a minimum number of courts, but I don't know what that
Sure.
is. I'm not.
I think they're already short.
Yeah, I'm not that cool yet.
And there is the tennis court still open,
Yeah.
but it's not lined.
Right.
Well, I think we can
should.
we can approve it, but also when they come next time, have a deeper discussion about the future and the programming use and needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's important we have those discussions going forward. So I will move to approve, make it conditional upon earlier discussions about the overall pickleball programming prior to approval of any other and publishing of any other seasons in the future.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
Sherry can help me with that one. Conditional to,
Approve.
making it conditional to, that's our,
Yes. Approved with the condition
The Rock's putting this in words too. I don't know when, but
I saw that.
yeah, they're doing a whole like entertainment
more
center thing.
comprehensive
Oh, yeah.
discussion
More than one specialty. one of
of
those.
overall
To,
pickleball programming
it's on the agenda.
prior to the publishing and scheduling of future seasons.
prior to the scheduling of future pickleball seasons.
Yeah,
Okay.
publishing and scheduling,
Publishing.
or scheduling and publishing. Before it hits their catalog, I think we should kind of
Yeah.
Got it.
discuss it.
Okay.
All caught up?
Yep.
All right. At this time, we'll go to item 2, the citizen comment period. Are there any citizens who would like to make a comment at this time? Mr. Haley?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Haley. I've been a resident of Franklin for better than 25 years. I currently serve on the Plan Commission, have been for over 15 years. Before that, the Environmental Commission. I'm going to echo what the Alderman said. Thank you all for your service, for what you do. It is important. I wanted to take the opportunity to speak on item 4G and I guess in concept 5D. I worked for Milwaukee County Parks in the Planning and Development section for over 27 years. I've been designing, building parks, trails. That's what I did for a profession. I was involved in both the county and the city's planning of park systems. So there was a joint venture, if you will, to provide the recreational resources that we needed. The county has some land and resources, and the question was, is what should Franklin have in the future? How can the two dovetail? How can they work together? So I was involved in developing the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan that the city has right now. It's the roadmap that we have. And it's a master plan, and the whole idea is as you move forward, you try to implement it at every opportunity you get. Okay? Those recommendations are recommendations, but they're there to be listened to and provide guidance to you and the council as to how to move forward. My concern is with this, again, item 4G, it's a recommendation to the council to pursue the purchase of approximately 40 acres of parkland. Great thing, I have no objections to that. What I want to remind you of or inform you of, because I don't know how many of you have actually looked at the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan and our city's master planning, it's there, but the reality is, as it stands right now, this parcel that we're looking at potentially acquiring is supposed to be part of a larger park development. The vision was Milwaukee County Parks owns Franklin Park as it's formally known. That's its name, directly to the east of this property. It is an extremely unique, I will say rare, plant ecosystem. That's why it was nominated to the state for a state natural area designation. It's one of the last few remaining remnants of oak savanna in Franklin in southeastern Wisconsin, period. Milwaukee County put a lot of effort into managing it, renovating it, turning it around into that. The vision on both sides, city and county, was always that that natural area would remain undeveloped. No parking lots, no trail other than the basic chip trails that are in there now. It being such a unique ecosystem, that Ryan Creek flows through it, there's drainage ways, it's very sensitive. And the thought was, county has this beautiful resource there, and we use that for passive recreation, bird watching, strolling, doing those types of things. There's a need now and in the future for the city of Franklin to have active recreation. And it was always deemed by both parties that Franklin Savannah was not the appropriate location for any active park uses. And so everybody agreed that if we built a park corridor to the west of this, that would best suit the needs of the city in the future and the county. We've got a lot of undeveloped land in the southwest part. That's what this is looking at planning. The comprehensive outdoor recreation plan is an essential tool for you, for the city. It guides us. It's the backbone for almost any grant application you will apply for. You need to have a current comprehensive outdoor recreation plan adopted on the record, and you have to be complying with it. Okay? First question they ask on almost any grant application. All right. So the issue that I have here is we're not following the plan. What we're doing, what you're being asked to recommend or to the city, is that they look at purchasing a piece of land, and that's a good thing. It's a piece of the solution. If you actually look at the plan, though, the whole intent was to carry this regional park all the way south, down towards the landfill, extend it up to the north to Ryan Creek, where it cuts through, where ultimately, between the city and the county holdings, they could put in an extension of a trail along the creek, not through a subdivision, but along the creek, connect it, and then continue to put the active recreation in to the north parcel, which is currently planned for development, the south parcel, which we're talking about here, and to continue on down, south side of Oakwood all the way across. That's the plan. That's what I'm here to remind you of, because the minds at the time thought that that made sense. Now, we're in a position where we can rethink that. Point is, you do it by modifying the plan. There's a process. You go through, you look at alternatives, you look at what's available, what's not available, and you involve the public in it. So if you want to change things that are currently right now designated for park and recreation use, then that's what you do, or you go through the process of amending the plan. Okay? What you're being asked to recommend is that the city pursue buying a piece of land that may be very useful as a park someday, but it isn't the rest of it. The rest of the picture goes away. You will no longer to be able to build it north, as the plan currently calls for. There'll be no connection to Ryan Creek, because there'll be a residential subdivision in the way, and there's no opportunity to move further to the south, because there's no connection. So even if the city moves forward and buys this parcel of land and starts to develop it as a park, there's a million and one logistical questions and cost. You're talking about a regional park, not to serve the neighborhood. This is a regional park. It's all the southwest, maybe all the city. And you won't be able to get to it unless you drive through a brand new subdivision with one outlet to 112th Street, through a circuitous maze of streets. Then you get to the park. So every user of the park has to come through the residential subdivision. I think that's common sense to everybody. No one's going to like that. And they won't realize that people will be buying lots, building lots in there, thinking, oh, it's great, we're having a park. But all the issues we've had and other things, people are not going to be happy with that volume of traffic coming through. Fire trucks, anything that needs to happen will have to come through a residential subdivision. The subdivision precludes the opportunity, as I said, of making the connection to the north and the northwest, where ultimately it would connect to the theoretically planned 116th Street Trail. So I'm asking you to go ahead and recommend to the council that they acquire this, but finish the job. Go for all of it. Be smart about this. There's a proposal pending, which is by and large mostly approved, and it will physically preclude developing any more of this park. You'll get a 40-acre postage stamp surrounding that you can't get to unless you drive through the streets. No opportunity to push a trail through there, because the pavement isn't going to happen on the county piece. That's been made clear in all of their planning. It's a natural area, and that's the way it's to stay. So we're missing an opportunity here. I would encourage you, recommend that the city go forward and pursue the acquisition of all the lands shown, to come up with a plan that can make this work. And if you don't think that that's appropriate for one reason or another, then have the city go through the process of updating the plan. And not just making a zoning change or a special use accommodation. Adopt the plan. When you eliminate this park, you need to replace it down here. A park system operates as a system. It's not a series of little parks. You can't take what's supposed to be a regional park, 40 acres, and then cram in all the other things and say, well, that's going to take care of all the neighborhood parks we need and the mini parks that we need. No, they all have different functions. We talk pickleball, tennis courts. All of those things are big land eaters, and they have to go somewhere. And you can't just say, oh, well, Southwest Franklin doesn't need anything because we'll have this one little 40-acre park there that we can't do anything in. So I'm asking you, be smart, be big picture, send the message to the council. Yes, acquire the parklands, but take steps to acquire everything that the plan says. That should have been happening for the last 15 years. The plan is old, and people argue, oh, it's no longer relevant. It should have been implemented. Those lands have been sitting there vacant. There's opportunities. There's a residential property that was available for sale on the market. The city doesn't do anything with that. But now all of a sudden, we're in a hurry to buy one piece without understanding how it's going to help or impact the bigger picture. Think of your park system as a system. It's all interconnected, and it's all the different things that need to be done. So, there's a really smart thing. Tell the council, implement the plan. The plan is there. It's all in detail. It makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then go public, have public meetings, explain to the people why it doesn't make sense, what the alternatives are, what you'd like to see, and get citizen input on it. Jamming it through the council just gets it done, gets it purchased. Somebody's got to fund this stuff. Somebody has to have a vision for how What's the phasing? When the trails come in? How do we gain access to it? Do all that stuff. Be smart about it. And then I'm just going to end on item 5B, talking about acquiring more parkland. Look at the plan. I don't know. I'm not even sure where this is. Is it part of the plan? Does it fit with the plan? Is it still relevant? If not, then we should change the plan first. Be smart about what we did. Franklin has the parks it has now because of vision. Milwaukee County has the parks it has now because of vision. People looked at the big picture and fought for years to implement the smaller pieces so that the jigsaw puzzle came together. I'm encouraging you to do the same. Our city needs to be responsible and serious about creating a park system. Because that's what it is. And it's there to serve everybody. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, could I get you to repeat your name for me, please?
Kevin Haley, Haley.
And Kevin, your position, or are you
I'm
just?
a retired Franklin resident.
Okay.
Over 25 years. I serve on the city's plan commission
Thank you.
for over 15 years and the environmental commission before that.
Great, thank you.
I've been doing what you're doing and giving my time to my city to make it a better place. That's why I came here this evening to share that with you.
Thank
Do the
you.
right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Haley. Any other citizens have comments? Hi.
I'm Dan Schaff. I'm with Bear Development, 4011 80th Street, Kenosha, Wisconsin. And here tonight, we're the contract purchasers of land that will be discussed under 4G. And so I just want to make myself available for any questions about the property. We've done a lot of due diligence on it. We really don't have a position on whether or not 40 or 75 acres is parkland, whatever we can do to cooperate with the city and their goals. But we're just asking for the city to be clear in their intention of the property. We're here to help in any way possible. If we can facilitate, a portion of a park or an entire park, we're here to cooperate, but we are asking respectfully that the city take a position on this because we're in the balance, as is the record owner. So whatever we can do, if the item comes up and there's any questions, I'm available.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Kristen Wilhelm, 3rd District Alderperson, 3851 West College Avenue. I think that everyone spoke really well about the parkland. I have these for you, and this echoes the importance of this state natural area. These brochures were put together. This land that we are looking at next to this park that Mr. Haley spoke very highly about was designated in 2004 as a state natural area. It's pretty big significance. We don't have anything like that in Franklin, which is why when we were working on the comprehensive master plan and the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, we picked this area. So I'm going to give you this so you can see.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just happened to find those when I was looking through some of my information. So I'm not exactly sure how we've gone away from having this as a larger area. And I was quoted in the paper saying it sort of Franklin's Devil's Lake. Well, that's a little bit of a stretch, but what I meant by that was saying we have this wonderful resource which could be a draw park for Franklin. And I would really hate to see us just give that up. There are species of special concern. There's concerns about upper watershed development and how it's going to impact that state natural area. So the developer that was here says he's willing to work with us. I know that somehow we went from a larger park, the east-west and the north-south parcel, down to this smaller 40 acres. I've looked through all of the comprehensive master plan, all of the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and I don't see where we've gotten rid of it. I know that I'm the one who made the motion in I have the resolution here, when we did two things. First of all, when Mayor Taylor was here, I was part of that comprehensive master plan, the outdoor recreation plan. And that included this park. And then when Mayor Olson took over, that also included this park. And there were some changes at that time. It sort of tries to water it down a little bit, but it doesn't eliminate the need for the park and the direction. And so as part of the current master plan in Chapter 7, the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, it says, as further described in this Corp update, would together serve the City of Franklin as the Southwest Park. This Southwest Park, if acquired and developed, would not only serve the regional multi-community needs of the City of Franklin for the foreseeable future, but also serve as community neighborhood and mini parks and special park needs for the next 15 years. So if you eliminate this park, you've got a lot of other planning to do. You probably have some other planning to do in this area anyway, because I'm not sure that it can meet all the mini park needs. As Mr. Haley pointed out, they all have different issues. But in Chapter 3, it talks about the regional multi-community park and the minimum development standards for gross areas. It says 5.3 acres per 1,000 people. So if you take 5.3 times 36,000 people, you have about 200 acres, close to 190, 200 acres, which is what the plan talks about, this being a 200-acre park, and they're including the county park in addition to the side-by-side park. So you cannot meet this acreage and size for this park without sticking with that larger area. And I really hope, because of its significance and what we can have in the future of Franklin, that you'll take another look at that. I've got pages and pages. I'm not going to go into all of this, but there's certainly enough support in the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan and the Comprehensive Master Plan. One of the reasons why it's here is because there's a development that they were talking about. They thought we were ready to get rid of it. I don't think the council has ever had any intention to get rid of any part of that park. In fact, I know there's times we've tried to push forward to get the park and it hasn't gone anywhere. I was kind of surprised when I heard we were shrinking it, especially this is the last thing I had was Vanderwall's draft, and it shows acquiring that property, which is why the planning staff did not recommend approving and rezoning that parcel to residential. So that's why it's back in front of you. If you decide that you're not going to make a recommendation to the Common Council for the entire thing, that means we rezone it, we lose it. Right now, the only thing that's keeping you from having that parkland is because of its zoned park. And that's like saying, I'm going to put a home right in the middle of a business district. You can't do things against the zoning code, and that's why we place these zoning standards to protect certain parklands. And I know you know a lot about parks, so you get that. So, I do have some interest in speaking on possibly the Pleasantview Park plan. I'd like to know a little bit more about the ice rink, but if you would just, I won't say anything more if you allow me maybe an opportunity if I have some comments later on. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'd like to ask a question of Alderwoman Wilhelm and Commissioner Haley, if I could.
Yeah, go right ahead.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but when we had brought this up at our February meeting, there was a gentleman in attendance who is a member of our Environmental Commission. And he asked to stand up and suggested strongly that the Franklin Savannah is seriously degraded with invasive species, and sort of said, kind of be careful what you chain yourself to. And which, you know, I wasn't quite sure how to take that, but I'm wondering if either of you could speak to that.
Yes, I absolutely can speak to that.
You know, because, and I guess along the same lines, and I appreciate Commissioner Haley's expertise in terms of, especially with the Milwaukee County Parks and, you know, putting together those pieces of the puzzle for that park system and having had that vision. But I also see that the challenges of maintaining that system have maybe not kept up with the vision through the years, and, you know, have brought along some other challenges. So trying to balance a lot of that. So that's kind of a tangent, but yeah, I'd kind of like to hear thoughts of people with greater expertise on the quality of the Savannah.
I can tell you that there's been a gentleman out there all winter doing buckler removal. That was with the Milwaukee County Park System. And while it's true, Milwaukee County has been pinched for funding, it doesn't make this less of a significant feature. I don't think that the restoration of the park is necessarily going to fall on the city of Franklin because it is a county park. But there's funding available for restoration. The problem is they're so strapped. Now, this brochure I gave you, that was in conjunction with, like you see, Harley Davidson sponsored it, and what happened was, I was the executive director for this Milwaukee Area Land Conservancy. Well, I ended up, don't need to go into a whole lot of details, but I ended up getting pretty sick, and I ended up not being able to fulfill that and finish out that. And I can only do so many things, so I stayed on the city council instead of trying to do 2 other jobs plus that job too. So it's worth picking back up. Milwaukee Area Land Conservancy is still a very active group. They were out over the weekend doing buckthorn removal in the Rhine Creek Prairie. And there's also the Friends of Franklin's Park, which is separate than the Friends groups. But you probably have seen Grove Schmidt Park has a strong Friends group that's working on it. And so I think that if there was more interest, there was a park next to it where you could actually access it, that's part of the problem. There is no access to this county park unless you walk through this big muddy field, and it's a long hike. So having a park access would go a long way for volunteer and restoration, even to assist the county.
Mike,
Yes.
can I say something?
Yeah,
too?
go right ahead.
What I didn't like about this at the last meeting was searching for a park through a subdivision. It bothered me that we weren't that this wasn't off a main road. So I walked it today. I walked along the whole west side of the Savannah. First I took the snowmobile trails through there, and then I took the county trails next to the woods. And I can see where they have been clearing buckthorn, but I can also see where he said it's not been kept up, because right along the beginning where the snowmobile trail starts, and maybe it's because of that, there was garbage in there and papers, and I saw like a burning barrel or something. And so right in that corner it was bad, but the whole Savannah isn't bad. The whole, especially where the gully is, it's really pretty in there. And but that bothered me that you have to search through a subdivision for a park. And so I don't know if the county owns the whole cornfield in front of it. Yes. I was thinking eventually there could be a road coming in from Oakwood Road if we couldn't come in from the other way, because they didn't want to come through the subdivision. I am more for this whole 75 acres. I didn't know that was in there as an option. And coming, I thought even if it was just the 40 acres, there was a tractor field, or a road coming through for the tractors to get back to the fields that could be used. Okay, what I'm still not clear on though is where this 40 acres is. There's 3 fields back there. And the first field is where the chicken farm is, in the middle of the field, where the monks have that farm. And then the second field has about 3 big oak trees in it. That's the biggest field. And then there's another field down along where that long driveway is. So which field are we talking about?
Show the parcel lines.
If I may. This is the county natural area. This is the 40 acres we're talking about right now. There's a residential house here, about 20 acres, right there on Oakwood Road. So the area we're talking about is this. with a proposed subdivision coming in through here. And actually, the first proposals for the subdivision showed it in here, down here, and back out here. So it's a moving target. And if I might, and I won't speak for the county, I'll tell you what we knew and what we did and what the policies were. They do not want pavement that farm field. Eventually, it will be converted to native prairie, as partly because that's what an oak savanna is. It's mature oaks growing in and amongst the prairie grasses. To the older woman's question specifically, though, is, yeah, it's not a panacea. When it was first discovered, it had been overgrown for so many years that it was our parks naturalist who was out there one day doing his inventories and discovered that there's this beautiful oak savanna which is being choked out by buckthorn, by other invasive species. Immediately, they enrolled it in the state program. So the fact that it met the criteria for the state natural areas speaks to its high quality environment. Yes, just like every property in Franklin, it's got buckthorn and invasives on it. And it's up to property owners to do what they can. There is an active management plan in place out there that strives to return this every year to a better and better version of an ancient savanna. And as I just heard, I know for a fact there are people out there on almost a daily basis cutting and treating buckthorn stumps. If you get in and you see most of the park, it really is a gem. It's unique. And the county's purpose for, if they have lands that they can't develop yet, or don't have the funding or whatever, the wherewithal, we put it in agriculture, especially when they're fine agricultural lands. So right now, there's a tenant farmer out there, but the vision is that ultimately, when they have the resources, that goes away. They're coming in with native plantings. They have no intention of putting a parking lot, a trail, an access path through there. It's take nothing but pictures, walk, enjoy the land. That's the general plan. And my concern, again, with this, and I'm not going to go on and on, but it's the big picture. It's the big picture. There's supposed to be a trail that comes along here. This is all supposed to be parkland. It's supposed to continue on down there. And what's in front of you is a 40-acre piece there. It's, if you will, the keystone, and yet we're walking away from the greater vision. That's my concern about this. That piece of land should be acquired. It should have been acquired years ago. In fact, it would have been cheaper years ago. But for some reason, we chose not to pursue it. So the real answer is, and if you look at the planning documents, it clearly shows that. That's supposed to be a recreational corridor through there. Trails, access way along, where you see all the blue, that's Ryan Creek. Theoretically out to our 116th Street Trail. It's all part of the bigger picture. And what the city's trying to do now is say, well, okay, we've got a plan that says a regional park there, but we've changed the dialogue to a dot on a map. If you look at some of the recent stuff, it shows a regional park centered on that. Buying 40 acres in the middle of nothing doesn't get you that regional park. You have to be concerned about development on all sides of it, and you have to have a plan for that. And that's what the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan is. It's comprehensive. It looks at the big picture, not just Franklin, connections with Franklin, Muskego, Oak Creek. That's all part of it. And I still haven't had anybody tell me what's wrong with that plan. Sure, it's dated. It should have been revisited. And we don't have to redo the entire plan, but you can go in a meaningful way and say, well, okay, maybe we can't get the full 75 or 100 acres that we want here. Where else do we do that? Can we get it? Is there some other linkage, something that can happen? Because that hasn't happened. There's been discussions. It's not in the plan. The plan, if it's wrong, if it's broken, fix it. Otherwise, there's a plan there. There's no reason not to follow it. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I have concerns that we're not taking in the trail connections that are within this plan as well. Milwaukee County's Oakley Trail and Ryan Creek Trail, all of those trails. When we had a trail commission at one time, we were looking at all of that, and it all made sense at that time, but without the other pieces of it, there's no trail connections. I know you have that on the agenda, so I'm curious to see if there's been some thought on how you're gonna replace that and how, what will be the access for Franklin residents to get in to that park if you buy just that 40-acre section instead of, going with the original plan. I'm curious on that.
Sure. At this time, do we have any other citizens who have a comment?
Hi.
Hi.
Commissioners, thank you also for me, for your work. My name is Debbie Davis. I'm at 9460 South 96th Street, and I'm a candidate for District 1 Alderwoman. And I just want to go on record as supporting what Commissioner Haley and Alderwoman Wilhelm has said. I've been to, with my neighbors, I've been to 3 commission meetings and 2 council meetings talking about this park and asking commissioners and all the people to stay with the plan. We think it's an excellent plan. I can't see how any land could be substituted for this plan. We're concerned, why would we put residents here that could compromise the reserve and so close to the landfill that's moving north, the plans to move north. So I just want to, and it's public record if you look back. We've had a lot of neighbors come, and with the exception of landowners, all the neighbors have said, please stay with this plan. We like this plan. We don't see any substitution for this plan. So please consider the whole 75 acres, even if it's not all purchased at once. Although, anyway, yes, please. We would like to stay committed to the plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens? Yes, sir.
My name is William Hinkle, 9612 West Oakwood Road. I live I have the property just east of the county land, right here. And as we talked about a month ago, about trails running through, that's one of the things we really, in our time, would love to see that accomplished. With the additional lands you have available here, and even the drainage system, all drainage goes through the Ryan Creek. If you remember, probably 15 to 20 years ago, the flooding that occurred. Now, naturally, with developments, trying retentions, but they overflow too. Everything would go through the woods. This entire field drains through the woods. Part of this drains through here and into our Ryan Creek area. So adding that large area in a grass situation, you're going to be at least absorbing the moisture that comes off the land. We're a tree farm, and we're now growing, we're going natural. We no longer little grasses don't grow tall. But if you go onto our farm, we looked at, actually talked to the government and said, do we need any type of management plan for land? He says, well, no, you're doing way more than you have to. That's what you're going to do with the grasses. You're going to reduce that problem of erosion and literally mudding up that creek, with overflow from any divisions that would come through there. So I would definitely encourage the purchase of as large a parcel. You only get one crack, But I know you have a tough decision. You spend a lot of time on committees, and I appreciate that too.
Thank you. Any other citizens? Okay, we will close the citizen comment period. At this time, we'll move forward with the unfinished park business. Can we have an update on parks maintenance, gentlemen?
I'll just keep it short. Nothing much going on, just getting ready for summer, cleaning up the parks. Don't tell the pickleball people, I'll try to get those courts open this week. So, but they'll be happy about that. But other than that, what's that?
Have they invited you for the next?
Have what?
Have they been calling?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. I'll get them up and they'll be happy.
Excellent. Moving forward, we'll jump down to item H. The request by Udevala, Rajesh Adapala, and Shruthrakrest Dada. I'm sorry if I hammered those. City of Franklin residents looking to build a cricket pitch in the City of Franklin Park.
We were here back in September, requesting for a cricket pitch in Franklin area. I just want to repeat what we said at that point. We have like a league that goes on during the summer, which is close to like 250 to 300 people that participate in that. They're looking for a cricket ground right now. And looks like that is approved by the approved for going forward with the approval. And we would like to know what are the next steps and if it can be built in the reserve Pleasantview Park. Sorry.
Sure. So I mean, taking a look at what was, I think the packet that we had, you guys were looking at either Pleasantview Park or at, was it Christine Rathke Park for installing a cricket pitch?
Yeah, we looked at Christine Rathke Park, but the parking over there might be not be sufficient, plus the overall field size probably with the baseball sporting might not be enough for the cricket pitch to be put in there.
And at Pleasantview, if you were looking, now for the cricket pitch, is this something you guys are looking to cover the cost of? Or are you asking the city to pay for the installation?
We are open to, if we are willing to donate something if at all it is needed.
Okay.
And one more thing, right? We got an email saying that there is a budget that is approved for the 2022 by the city commission.
Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
there was an allocation for the cricket pitch in the 2022 budget. There's a question of there isn't a location assigned to it. The thought being that maybe it would be in a facility in a new park, so it might carry over to a future year, but there was an allocation made in the capital budget.
Okay.
That's a question.
Yeah, go right ahead, Glenn.
Sir, you're right, there is a budget allocation for $20,000. I don't remember the amount, but I started looking at some of the options. I don't know that I can find space in our existing park. So, and maybe you can tell me differently, because I searched online for the dimensions. In your mind, what is the size of a cricket field? I understand that they're different, size like a baseball. That there's no such exact dimensions of an outfield. But what would you need for an ideal cricket?
Probably 60-meter radius.
60 meters, that's like 180 feet.
Yeah.
So, I guess we probably could, you think we could squeeze one in here?
Yeah, I think we have actually looked at that. We should be able to squeeze it in there.
When I look at, so your other request was for Pleasantview. I'm gonna go over it. So this park is not as big as you think it is, especially since we're getting ready to add a project. There is a baseball stadium here. We're basically, so we're putting a sand volleyball court, we're putting some tennis court, pickleball courts down here, expanding the parking lot. So I don't think that, once you get past this outfield, this is basically no touch. We have a path that we can go through, but we can't really develop this in any kind of way. So it looks much bigger than it really is. But the Christine Rathke, I guess when I looked at it before, I didn't think that I could have 68. Yeah, it's gonna go on. So I guess if you think that's big enough, I guess I can look at that a little closer. Is that level enough? So there is a baseball field here. So how often would you take the facility? I guess that'd be a question for the commission. If I recall, I think we were looking at basically every weekend, both days.
Yeah.
So I don't know how busy this ball diamond is, but that would be a discussion for your group.
You mentioned you're having 250 to 300 people showing up every Saturday and Sunday?
No, it's a league that has 250 people.
Okay.
275 people. But during every Saturday, it's a 3-hour game for 2 teams. each team is like 11 people, so we are saying around 25 people for every 3 hours. So
So it's about 20
75.
Parking.
So would you have, so how many people on a team?
11 people, so 2 teams, plus referees.
So you'd have
25.
20, you can potentially have 20 cars.
20 cars.
Yeah, probably 20 cars, yes.
So to overlap, you need 40 cars because you have people showing up before the game and people.
Yeah.
It's like you have about 20 parking spaces here. So you either have to put a gap between your games or, because I can't imagine how, 68th Street's fairly narrow and probably not narrow enough depending on who wants speed and who doesn't want speed. Long story short, we shouldn't have to be parked on 68th Street. I can't imagine the neighborhood across the street would be very excited about people parking on their street. So I guess that would be a concern, the number of parking spaces. What?
I said a future park. Keep your eyes on that future park.
So long story short, I think Pleasantview, because we're getting ready to build some other things, and the field that you really see is really not allowable to develop like that. So if this area would fit, I guess that would be an option, but I'm concerned about the park. So if you can come up with an acceptable location, I'd be more than happy to help you work through
Do you have any other locations that
I looked at all of our city-owned parks. I really couldn't find any. There was some county parks that might be appropriate. You've looked at, was it Frisbee, down on 51st Street?
What about Water Tower? Well, what I'm thinking would be an ideal location for the weekends. And although technically it's a county park, but leased by the school district, is on the north side of Southwood Glen. It's 7 acres?
It's like 35th and Ryan.
Yeah. No, go east. a little
East,
more.
so like 35th.
Yeah, go east to 35th.
Oh, 35th.
Mm-hmm.
35th and Ryan.
So I'm just trying to think of ways we might be able to be creative, because there's plenty of parking there for the weekends. And it's a beautiful piece of property.
But don't they use that for soccer and?
They don't use it as much.
Not very much.
No,
During
it's
the
kind of
week,
unknown.
during the weekdays, it's used for practices for rec
Yeah,
league teams,
but
but
on the
I'm starting to go
weekends.
to Robinwood too. That might be.
Robinwood might
Yeah.
be nice too, but I don't know. I should love to sit over on my side of town personally, but so I'll advocate for that. But you know, I just don't know if there's a way that we can somehow be creative in working with the school district, since they're the ones leasing it. I just see that as a very ideal spot.
There's a nice spot here that, again, it's a county park, it's not a city park.
Yeah.
Is that Robinwood now?
Yeah.
yeah.
Could be wrong.
Is that
There's
also based in
baseball
the school
there all the
district?
Yeah.
time. There's baseball going on there
Oh, is there?
all the time. But they have that huge parking lot that's so deteriorated and empty. They've got so much in there that isn't developed at all. There would be a beautiful
Okay, there is
park to put trails through the woods too, and I've got
We have a
nowhere
trail
with
that's
that.
next to it.
But that parking lot isn't used. They park at Robinwood
Right.
School.
This is the parking lot.
Well, that's an old those are old basketball courts that are deteriorated.
Is
Yeah.
that
Right.
restroom maintained?
No, not
Yes.
at all.
Yes.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's the only caveat with over at Southwood Glen, although there's plenty of parking and plenty of space, there's no restroom available there. So that might be something that's inconvenient for you.
That restroom's opening
Mm-hmm.
and functioning, it's used for when they used to have the youth football practices there and
The,
t-ball and that kind of stuff.
the roof's all, and it seems as though it's locked all the time.
It's only open when there's
When there's an event there, right?
when there's rentals. So if there's paid activity.
There's all these holes in the roof for shingles coming off. But that's good if it is open.
And parking in that lot is not allowed, it'd have to be in the school lot.
Right.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
There's nowhere there.
yeah, we used to run our youth football practice there, and that's a very narrow path, and people walk their dogs constantly. So they'd have to park in the main school lot.
Mhm.
But on the weekends, it shouldn't be an issue.
No.
Yeah, there's plenty of parking there.
Yeah, I would think either of those locations would probably be a great fit for you until we can get a new park built that would be able to accommodate the size and the space you guys need with parking.
But use city funds on a county park is probably, so.
I'm sorry, can you?
But using city funds for a county park, probably not likely, I would assume.
Correct.
So what would it cost?
What's that?
What would it cost for us?
You'll have to talk to the county.
That's called St. Martin's Park.
St. Martin.
So when you talk to the county, reference St. Martin Park, yeah.
If you were to find any other city-owned parks, should we reach out to you?
I don't know of any city-owned park that would meet the criteria of the.
What about water tower?
Yeah, 60 meters.
Water Tower Park A, if that's kind of a level spot, that would be appropriate. Two, I'm getting ready to build a water tower there, and I don't want people there visiting while I'm constructing. And then two, I'm limited in the number of parking spaces, like dozen cars at the most.
So regarding the Southwood Glen, who should we talk to?
You have Milwaukee County Park System, I guess Google them.
Has anybody looked at filming?
Oh, and yeah, I mentioned trimming. This was my first thought. 51st, Cutes, down here, this probably has sufficient parking for you.
Yes. It's probably.
And you have to see if there's enough level space for I've never played cricket, so I don't know how much of an incline you can take, but I think there's somewhat of a hill there you have to look at. And there's a functioning restroom there.
Yeah. There is a soccer field next to it.
What's that?
There is a soccer field next to
To the west of it.
Yeah, down below.
So there's a sports complex down here.
On the top.
60th and
Somewhere here there is a soccer. There.
Right here?
Yeah.
I've never been there. So
Those are all
Yeah.
county-owned soccer. There's 2 soccer fields there. That would be the county parks.
But a city-owned park, I don't know a good location for you.
So I guess the first step until we can have a park large enough to accommodate, if you guys want to reach out to Milwaukee County and see if you could either use Fleming or if you could look to use it on some of the leased property they have with the school district, I think that would be the first step to go.
So, and the other option for the bigger park that you mentioned, is there anything that is coming that is in line?
We are still looking to purchase the land and start that whole process. So it'll be a little ways down the road yet. All right, thank you guys. Jumping back into the unfinished business, if we could go to B, uniform signage for all parks.
No updates at this time, but they will be ready for the park season for installation.
Okay.
Did she say when?
Ready for the season. We go to item C, park permit fees and deposits for rentals of pavilions and other facilities at all City of Franklin parks.
Hi, that would be me.
How you doing?
Hi, I just got all the corrections from someone gave them to me. There's like a whole stack of them, so I have to go through them and make the corrections. Was there any other things that you need me to know and stuff? I see that I was missing some little parts or something.
Yeah, there's a bunch of notes there. We can check in about it outside of meeting time. And then, so the clerk's office reviewed these materials, Public Works reviewed them, and so did someone from engineering, both for just copy editing and also for like detailed information. So there's a bunch of comments there. The clerk's office said thank you, and they're excited about the revisions. They do have some sort of comments about how they use the forms. So we'll work through that and then.
Yeah, I'm available anytime. Just give me a call when you're ready.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, so
Thank you.
So I actually didn't even work on anything else, but I was thinking, I just had a question. In Franklin, do we have like an official volunteer, anything that says, come and help us with the parks or anything? Is there a volunteer something?
Not that I know.
No? Because when I worked at Greenfield, I also was in charge of the volunteers there, and that helped for community events. And Franklin is a little bit scattered all over. Like, there's not one place to put all this stuff. And I would be willing to put something together and run it by you all and see if this is something we want to do. Because I know there's people even in our subdivision that they're always looking for stuff to do, like work at the parks or help at parks, and if you have scheduled activities, you can actually have them come and do this and stuff. But I think Franklin is a nice area that you can get a nice group of people together and do something like that. Even we had that one person just the other last time, he was looking for it to kind of do the same thing. But we don't, as a city, we do not have a nice volunteer program. How's that? So is that something you want me to kind of, you're not paying me, so it's free, that we could kind of put together and maybe kick this off? It would help DPW, it would help other people maintain the parks a little bit and cleaning up. We could do stuff like that. Is that something you want me to do? I'm just putting it out there.
I would think we can kick the tires on and see where we're at. I think it'd be nice to start to organize park cleanups and
Right.
weed outs and those kind of things.
Right, exactly.
DPW always has too much to do, and
I know.
you kind of have to
Well,
be
that's-
under Kevin's.
But we're here as a community, we're here to do stuff. People want to see their parks beautiful and looking nice. Yes.
We did just implement a adopt a road policy, so.
That could be part of it.
That could be the model for what you're trying to do.
Awesome.
Right. Like you could have a kickoff event, you could have like a little thing where you're having people sign up or whatever. You just do a lot of it mostly online and stuff like that. So we just include that. So, all right, I'm going to work on that next
And I don't
day
know
after
how-
we finish this stuff, but yeah.
How much additional work it would be for Parks and DPW to kind of put together a list of things that volunteers could do without minimal supervision and
Well, also it kind of goes to
insurance waivers.
Right. And, well, actually, you're signing a waiver. You're releasing yeah, as a volunteer, you're releasing that. But it also kind of goes with that wish list, like for things that we would like at the parks and stuff like that. You know, like flower beds. Like we don't have very many of those. Like for the Girl Scouts. Remember that little wish list that I had mentioned a little bit? Maybe create that list. I could help you with that a little bit, or what you guys are looking for. So, but those are volunteers that would include the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, and all those. It would give them a place to actually look at projects and stuff. So,
The only thing I would caution about volunteers is sometimes they start projects and never finish them, and then it becomes added work
right.
for the other staff.
Well,
so it would be something that I would think we would have to work as a committee and with DPW
Right.
to develop a plan and
Right.
what is wanted and what is not, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just kind of signatures. A lot of times it's well-intentioned with a lot of folks, and more power to them, but it seems in the past it's fizzled out always.
Well, maybe because you haven't been promoting it as a volunteer and actual program. You know, like there's people out there. There's seasons for things and stuff like that.
I was just gonna say, I wanted to add that the website is still there for the group, and it's still connected to the city's website.
What is that?
It's
Friends
called
of Franklin.
Friends of Franklin's Park and Citywide Cleanup, and there's a link, it's on www.franklinwy.gov about Franklin annual city events, citywide cleanups, and there's a whole buckthorn bunch of people volunteer, so it's still active, it just needs to be,
It needs to be
revived, you know.
Sure.
renewed.
Yes, sir.
Don't we have Arbor Day coming up? The Arbor Day group is a group of volunteers that go out. They could probably link into something.
Right, right. It would all be all linked together then, right? There would be events that's actually an event. That would be an Arbor Day event.
Who does Arbor Day? Environmental?
Environmental, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe that's a link too that could pull those things together.
So would you manage all that?
Well, I would not manage it. I'll get you all the brochures and stuff like that.
Who manages that?
We can discuss that, but it's something that I think as a city, we should have a volunteer group or stuff that we can pull people from. It's not on the website. You remember I did all my research and I looked up this, and that's one of those things that is not there. And why is it not there?
You know, and I agree that it'd be a great thing to have, and it begs the question, is it something that it's a group of volunteers that's sort of managed on a sort of ad hoc basis by this commission, or as a revitalization of the Friends of Franklin Parks, which was its own separate 501c3 and really didn't have any direct oversight from the city, you know, and it was a group that had a board of directors and managed their own finances and things like that. So, you know, I think it is a bigger discussion, but one worth having in what we ultimately want that to look like, or what the city would need.
Where you're going to.
Right.
And stuff. Yeah. All right.
Kevin.
I'm hesitant because like Arbor Day, you know, DPW does do a lot with that. We do all the scheduling for it, we do all the pickup for it. It's very well intentioned, but I just want to take on more of our staff as to dedicate more time. And if we can get true volunteers to get in there and get at it.
Take it on, right.
But if it's more work on our end, I'm really hesitant about it because, you know, like Arbor Day turned into something for staff to really have to pick up. And I'm just throwing it out there. Because if we take on more, something else has got to come off the plate. So
Well,
if we can get something to work, I'm great. I'm sorry,
Right.
Michelle.
I think the promotion of it is like DPW does not promote this. Where does it get promoted? Like Arbor Day, does it just go in the city newsletter? And that's it? It's what you do? Okay.
Yeah, the Environmental Commission sponsors that event in coordination with DPW. So they have an event at the library, and then there's the citywide cleanup that DPW coordinates as a project by DPW. So the commission is responsible for the event at the library.
It used to be coordinated by Keep Greater Milwaukee Beautiful, and they did all the coordination, and I don't know if anybody's ever followed up on that, but that's when we did our very first ones, because I was part of forming that.
They actually have that program still. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do, but
Making gloves out of bags and the whole bit.
Keep Greater Milwaukee Beautiful had a change in leadership. The gentleman was in charge of it for a long time, retired.
Oh, just
And,
recently?
yeah, so he's a Franklin resident as well, or he was. Yeah, Joe Wilson. Yeah, he retired, and I think that the connections aren't there yet from the previous person in charge. So.
Well,
And we do work, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we do work with the Greater Milwaukee.
Right,
you know,
right.
So.
Well, I think if we just start, just get the volunteer stuff, get in some of the articles together and stuff, and decide what we would like them to do, and then promote it and see what we get out of it. It doesn't hurt to do that. Yeah, you know, there's projects out there. Yeah. All right, I will put something together.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mike?
Yes.
Is it the environmental committee that's doing this buckthorn thing? It is? Okay.
So
Because
if
he
you-
was trying to start up the Friends, he was here at the
Right,
last
so
meeting.
if you kind of work with all these little departments and stuff, and they have a program and it's kind of set up, then you can include it with the volunteers. So this is just getting the volunteers to help out. Like, I know a lot of these are older people that are involved in these things, but you want the younger generation, because they're the green people. So they want to keep everything good. You got to think about that.
And their backs are stronger too.
Yes, their backs are stronger, and they would commit to some of this stuff. They're homeowners, they live here, and they don't see any opportunities right now. So so. It's kinda like they don't know of the clubs and stuff that exist. There's like nothing out there. So I just noticing that it's, you don't start, it's gotta start someplace.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, sure. So that's what I have. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll move to letter D, status of the Pleasantview Park site plan.
So, contract is authorized, we've been seeing some shop drawings, but we haven't scheduled a pre-con meeting yet, so I don't have a schedule when the contractor plans to be out there. I'll keep you updated.
Excellent. Thank you. We will skip down to I, the update on trail projects, including South 116th Street, St. Martin of Tours, West Forest Home Avenue, West Church Street, State Highway 100, Ryan Creek, and Cascade Creek Park.
So let's one by one. 116th Street Trail, we got some good news. A couple Fridays ago, late in the day, we got awarded the CMAQ grant. The CMAQ is Congestion Mitigation, Air Quality, I think is what it stands for. But honestly, that was one that was kind of surprising. We just honestly just threw it at the window, and we were really aiming for the TAP grant. It got submitted so fast, there was some miscommunication between myself and the consultant. It's the kind of deal where we submitted it, and I read what we submitted the day later. And so we had decided that we wanted to only ask for 70% instead of 80%. We thought that'd make the grant a little sexier. Consultant somehow didn't catch that in our conversation, so she submitted for 80%, which sounds good. The part that we were also wanting to add was the cost of the trailhead. We were going to add the trailhead to it, and that did not catch the grant for the CMAQ. So but good news is it's $830-some thousand is what they're paying us.
Awesome.
Which is 80% of the project. So with other park spendings, I think we can afford the trailhead, and when you do the numbers, it's still good for us. Very nice. The permitting is proceeding with DNR. We did get a letter this past week that if you heard Planning Commission conversation, we have some DNR issues as far as trying to get it permitted south of Ryan Road. We did get confirmation that they consider that artificial wetlands, so it's still rail bed, but they finally caught on and sent me notice that they will accept it as that. So things are looking good. I have yet to actually be able to talk to my DOT representative. There's a lot of other grant projects going on, so they're kind of hard to get a hold of. But long story short, it's proceeding. So I can't tell you what year. It has to match the DOT and federal funding year cycle whenever they tell us that they want to do the project. So a little bit at their mercy, but it's good news there. St. Martin of Tours. Honestly, that's on my plate. I need to contact the church and finish up the easement acquisition for the trail. That's just on my shoulders to push that forward. West Forest Home Avenue, county is still looking to put a 10-foot trail along West Forest Home. Last conversation I heard from them, they're still trying to decide which side of the road it should go on, but it's still proceeding. West Church Street, as mentioned earlier by Alderman Mayer, we are looking to do that. So if you've been up on College Avenue between 31st and 27th Street, we installed a concrete shoulder a few years ago that has like a rumble strip. So if you're driving down the road and you start to veer over, people don't like that. So it makes it safer for pedestrians to walk, but it doesn't go into the yard as far. So we're looking to do something like that on Church Street between Mission Hills, and we'll take it all the way to St. Martin's. It's what we have in the budget. And then in addition, we're hoping to replace some of that asphalt trail. If you've been on it, it's absolutely atrocious. It doesn't meet ADA standards, so we're going to try to replace some of that with concrete as we do that. So, State Highway 100, Common Council authorized the municipal funding agreement and the maintenance agreement. So when they do their project, which I'm getting these mixed up. But I think this could be as early as 24, possibly 25 is when that will happen. So we will have a 10-foot trail on the north side of Ryan Road, and it'll continue up the east side of St. Martin's up to where St. Martin's cuts off from Lover's Lane, so that area. So that'll be a nice connection. Ryan Creek and Cascade Creek Park. So Grave had a project where they did the Ryan Creek master plan. It would be appropriate unless you have other comments to maybe recommend to common council that plan be adopted. And then I can ask Grave to finish that up, and then we can call it good. We can actually show that to people when they want to see that we want a trail that actually was discussed earlier, trail on the creek. The Cascade Creek Park, that's on my shoulders. I just need to take that back to the county and ask them to consider that, and I would very much like to be part of that conversation, so I don't just deny it and send me a letter again. Any other questions about that? Those or any other trails?
So you're looking for a motion from us to approve to send it to council for Ryan Creek?
Yeah, so Grave made a presentation to the Parks Commission 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago. What's that?
Yes, but I think it was the last meeting, wasn't it?
Last week?
Maybe it was two. I
think it was in January.
So the question is, unless you have any comments, I would suggest that we go ahead and call it good and take it to common council.
Sure.
So recommend to common council to adopt the Ryan Creek Trail Master Plan.
Okay.
I move we recommend to common council to adopt the Ryan Creek Trail Plan.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Oh.
The aye.
I guess one of the things, part of the Ryan Creek Trail. So, I can't believe we got this one. So we solicited 3 consultants to provide input or provide a statement of qualifications for the Ryan Creek Trail that will go across the school/archdiocese property. So it will go from 92nd Street along the southern end of the property along the Ryan Creek. It would touch the edge of their property, head due north to 80th Street. Yep. It would head due north to 80th Street, and then we'd have some sort of trailhead there at the cul-de-sac, and then possibly a spur that would veer off towards the trail that would go towards that was put in by the subdivision there at Oakwood in 76. So we had 3 consultants. I had Grafe, I had Baxter and Woodman, I had Clark Dietz submit proposals, and personally I feel like all 3 were well qualified to do the project. That's why I asked those 3. A couple other comments I got were either one was fine. The 2 that had a preference preferred Grafe. So I guess you can discuss that further. If you would like to do Grafe, have Grafe do this, I can ask Grafe to come to the next meeting with a real proposal and contract.
Having looked at the proposals, I'd like to see Grave come to the next meeting with a proposal and a contract. Pretty comfortable with some of the work they've done.
Just a little bit further explanation of the project. We have been talking to the school district. They are more than willing to let us do it. It's really tough to give a nice quote because there's some bridges in there. We're going to figure out how to get bridges across the creek, a few different locations. And then we did talk to the school about a trailhead. They brought me out to the football facility and said they'd like to see something like that. I don't know if the city should pay for all that or not, but that's probably a discussion later on. We'd have to discuss who's going to maintain it, if we do kind of a share kind of thing. So that's to be decided later on, but in the meantime, we'll at least get the trail started under design.
Excellent.
I just have a question. I have sitting on the council, I can't even envision how these trails are all meeting together. I've never seen a cohesive plan. Could we get that maybe to the council if you're going to bring all these forward?
So I have created a couple exhibits to kind of show pictorially how the trails are going together, but when I bring the Ryan Creek Trail the common council, this is obviously part of that group. So.
Will you be showing like other planned trails and so we can see the big picture of the whole city?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Been submitted before, but I can recreate that now.
Excellent. Did we finish the last motion?
I got it recommended common council to adopt plan, but I didn't finish the plan.
I'm sorry, I thought you voted.
Oh, that's all right. I think we did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We'll fill it in.
Okay. Excellent. Moving forward, let's go to the letter F, the park amenities donation policy. And I think where we were at with this is we were trying to set a standard common ground on what we allow as a donation with materials, locations, so it won't, we don't have 13 different little free libraries popping up of all different materials and different locations that are all really well intended, but at the same time, 2 or 3 years down the road, they start to become maintenance issues for DPW. So, is there any type of material or policy that you guys would like to see us move forward with or prefer?
Well, I guess the first thing is everybody comfortable with putting all these things in the parks?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all nice, but
Right.
do we really want, again, it said, there's a libraries and birdhouse, whatever could possibly be. Do we want that, or do we want to standardize it? Do we want to make it, this is what's allowed, this isn't? Is that, I don't know how the commission is going there.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I was gonna say, what do you guys? How do you guys feel? I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's certain areas of certain parks that should be set for programming, and I think there's certain areas that should be left natural for the different types of recreation and things that go on in the parks. I'm also not a big believer in putting up signs and items everywhere that become maintenance responsibilities down the road, knowing that costs only continue to rise, budgets don't. So you have to make difficult choices. And you truly appreciate the work that some of the people put in, whether if it's, retired people or students that are looking to help improve things. But at the same time, I think we do need to come up with a standard of each park can only accommodate a certain amount of items before you have too much and it starts to look like the Dells where there's just stuff everywhere. You're overwhelmed with things. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think we should establish some sort of, we kind of kicked around, if you want to donate a bench, here are your options. We can't let them come in with their homemade bench. It's got to match what we have in the parks. We talked about let's maybe consider planting a tree instead of adding a library. Come up with a set list of approved things by the city for the parks, and I don't know if you want to go down the road. If it's not on the list, you can appeal to have us talk about it on a case by case, or just here's the list. Thank you very much. I mean, I don't know how we want to play that out, but I love the idea if you want to do a bench, because benches are the big thing that we've seen a lot of. Great, here's the bench options, A, B, and C that we already have in the parks. Here's your cost to do that. And you could carry that on with trees. We thought, well, if you did a tree, you could do a plaque that would be, on a stone. That's easy. There's no maintenance. That's drop it down and you're done. But it just seems like there's so many different things coming up with, and again, all well-intentioned, and you love it, but at some point you got to say no if it doesn't make sense.
I really just don't think those libraries are a good idea. They don't seem to last very long, and the doors break off, and seems to. Did you weren't you going to call the library people?
We did. We sent an email to them, and Dale was in touch with them about materials and stuff.
Well, since I sent them an email saying we kind of approved it already, so
Yes.
I told them to go ahead with what materials you have, and I said, I was real nice in the email, and I mentioned that we like this stuff to last a long time, and I'll take a look at it and possibly improve this slightly to make it last long. So I kind of just threw it out there that I might change it a little bit, modify it. So
Okay.
that's okay.
So I guess, in the vein of sort of keep it simple, stupid, what I'm hearing is a suggestion to really keep parks donations only at a memorial bench, a tree, or a financial donation. And at least for the foreseeable future, a moratorium on any other type of donation.
Including bottle cap art, bird houses
Mhm.
and such.
Yeah.
Like the bench we put in for 20 Magnet, maybe consider that. I thought, we would consider that or donating bench type.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
one, and then we.
And then if they're
everybody knows
given
it's
that bigger
donated.
dollar amount too, they might change their mind.
And donate a tree.
Can I make a comment on the tree? Since I have a prairie in my district, and I've seen people just go out and plant trees, and now it makes it difficult to burn. So if you would consider habitat and species selection, along with that placement, with your tree donation, that would be great.
Absolutely. I think any tree that becomes donated would have to be approved by DPW on the location, the species.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many people really know that the other part of Pleasantview Park on the Victory Creek Park side is prairie habitat for burning, and I keep seeing trees, and I've even seen pine trees planted in over there. I'm like, well-meaning people putting pine trees in the park because they don't understand a musclewood, which is 100 years old, only gets this big around because it's a slow-growing, hard understory tree, and that, there's just little insignificant trees in the woods. It's like, you have no idea what you're looking at. That's, so.
Excellent. Go ahead, Dave.
Do we want to maybe come back next month with this, and in the meantime, everybody puts their thoughts together, including DPW on what they don't want to see for sure, what you do want to see, we all can kind of come back with, and then we come up with a list and common ground, common areas.
I can recirculate the document that Alderman had prepared previously, and then if you guys want to send comments to me, I'll file them.
Sounds great. Yes, sir.
Just a note on the birdhouses. At the Meadowlands Trail, it's between Elm Court and Red Wing Drive. There's a trail that goes through there called Meadowland. Someone put up some birdhouses. Again, I took some of them down. I left a couple up because there was birds in them, so I just decided to leave them up. But the one I looked at today, they put them up probably a month and a half ago, and it was made out of interior grade particle board, and it was all swollen up. It was like cabinet grade particle board type material, and it's going to fall apart in another month and a half or 2 months. So, I mean, I guess that's it just doesn't last, and you gotta. I guess you gotta look at every design that people are gonna put up. You can't just blindly put something out there.
Right.
It's gonna look like trash after a while. So just keep that in mind.
Sure.
We don't want to squash everybody's. I mean, gentleman, it seems like he was really into it, and I get that. And I was there by his house today, and there was birds there, and so I mean it's a good thing, but on the other hand, if it's not done right, it's not done right.
So that sort of begs the question then, the birdhouses that we have along the marshland and Kayla's playground area.
The Boy Scout.
Yeah,
Boy Scout
that was the Boy Scout.
Mhm.
Are we just going to leave those there until they deteriorate?
Actually, somebody had a volunteer group last spring, and we had some of those kids clean them out. That was one of the jobs they did. At this point, I wasn't really doing any maintenance on them, but I guess,
They're in good condition.
yeah, I mean, they're relatively new, but I guess over
Yeah.
time, they're gonna get,
Yeah. Is that just once a year maintenance, do you think? Or we put that on our spring cleanup as well for our volunteers?
yeah, I guess. I don't know when the right time to do it is. I'm not up for it yet. Well,
Before the eggs are in it.
so I Googled.
Because then it's a federal crime.
Winter.
No one wants that.
Yeah.
What about the fall? I came with the house, a little baby, I don't know how it was. So I think I didn't do a clean out. Was it a street?
Yeah.
Really small. Cool. Yeah, we let them go.
I guess we will table that for the next month, and we'll provide some updates. We'll move on to, I guess, the item why some of the people are hanging around. The recommendation of the Common Council to pursue the purchase of approximately 40 acres of parkland adjacent to the western boundary of the Franklin-Savannah Natural Area on West Oakwood Road.
So I will pick this one up. So in your packet, there was some information provided, and I have supplementary information that has been offered up by the City Administrator Peggy Stino. So I'll just note that as part of this discussion, that this commission and the Common Council both recommended an adoption of the Parkland Acquisition Study, which is an implementation of our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan with a choice of scenario E. So you may recall that last year, I know Commissioner Milwaukee wasn't here, but that we went through a process of evaluating the corp to determine how best to use the impact fees that are currently on hand. So that was a recommendation for a 60-acre community park, which is the Southwest Park generally, and then land acquisition and trail improvements. So that was your prior recommendation. Previous to the Parkland Acquisition Study itself, you had also made a recommendation of purchasing a parcel in the southwest quadrant. So this ongoing discussion is, there's a specific parcel that there's an open question about, but there's also the sort of general question of what resources do you have on hand to do that? And so I'm going to pass around two documents that City Administrator Stino provided me with. One is the 2022 capital plan. This was in your packet, but this has been marked up a little bit so that it's a little bit clearer. And then the second item is the park impact fee spending plan that this commission produced last year that then informed the capital plan. So you may notice that this plan has items on it that have a $0 amount because they were recommended but didn't necessarily get added to the capital improvement plan, whereas this is 2021 is, there's two sides to it. It includes 2021 and on one side and then 2022, so you want to look at this upper left-hand corner for that information. So some key things to know. As you may recall, there is an impact fee amount of about $1.2 million of impact fees that have been allocated for this year. And that is the amount of impact fees that we need to spend down in order to not have to rebate those funds. So items on this schedule, I have too much paper, I apologize. Items that are bolded on the schedule, the gray one, sorry, what did I do with my copy? Are the impact fee items. So basically, the question before you is, if you wanted to make a purchase of parkland this year, there has been funding allocated for the possibility of doing that, but it might not be enough to get you to that very large park. So among the items that were budgeted for, how would you choose to reprioritize? Bearing in mind that some projects are currently underway, and so it would be difficult to reprioritize those. Hoping I didn't pass you guys my notes. And how would you like to approach this? So you have made a previous recommendation. That doesn't mean that you can't make a different recommendation today either. But I'm just noting for the record that there has been prior discussion. So also in your packet or at your chairs was a comment. You've heard comments from the group today. There was also a comment from Alderman Ed Hopfer, who wasn't able to join this evening, but did want you to know that he had some thoughts on the matter. So.
Mayor, I guess Chairman.
Go ahead.
The council's motion to send this to the Park Commission, there wasn't, you still have the whole month of April. You don't have to make a decision tonight. I didn't know if you knew that was a May 3rd council meeting.
Yep, and so if there are questions about the financial items too, because we do have a little bit of time to get more information.
Okay.
So.
Yes, Glenn.
So I had several meetings with Administrator Stino today regarding this issue. So I guess to summarize, I don't know if I'm at liberty to say how much we're looking to possibly purchase that park for, but if you are looking to purchase the park, we need to know what comes off the list. It is possible, but it's I guess what we'd like to know is what is your priorities, what are some things you could live without. It's really kind of a puzzle because the way everything is put together so far, it considers, park impact fees paid 71% for a trail or 30 whatever percent for a parkland. So if you want to do parkland, we have to go through the table and figure out what priorities, what things on it, let me rephrase it, what kinds of things on this project list are absolute must you got to have, and what are some things you're willing to sacrifice and give up for a park?
Sure.
I guess that's what it said.
Yep, and so I have some slides available to help facilitate this discussion. Just reminding you that impact fees can be distributed, it depends on the size of the park basically and how much of it's been constructed already, so there's different rates. I don't know how much, really this question for you is what are the commission's priorities from these facilities, bearing in mind that there is a financial impact. So, and this is the list of what's currently funded.
Did you say the bolded numbers were?
Yep, so on this sheet, the title is Approved Capital Improvement Plan / Park. Items that are bolded are impact fee items. So this other sheet is the priorities that you set last year during the capital budgeting process. And that then informed the bolded list.
I mean, me personally, taking a look at the list, if we were to go ahead and recommend a purchasing, I think the one thing that my feeling on would be that we could push down on the list as a priority would be the dog amenities. Just knowing that they claim to be maintenance free, but they never are. They put a lot of taxing work upon an already taxed DPW.
I have a comment about Frisbee Golf in Victory Creek Park. I'm not even sure that would be allowed in the stadiums.
We mentioned that when the gentleman came here.
Okay, I don't know. Who was that?
He was a resident who lived on the south end.
Okay, so you're not recommending that 20,000 for that then, right?
No, we weren't.
The $150,000 budgeted to resurface the tennis courts at Fleming Park. That I'm guessing will go away because now the county has decided that they will undertake that project and turn it into pickleball courts.
Oh, I didn't hear that. How many pickleball?
8.
Fantastic.
Um,
And seeing there's no place for cricket, that money's still available, right?
mhm.
You said that's the county, Sherry? That's going to refinish the tennis courts?
Because that's a county park.
For pickleball?
Now, I would say, before I speak up for that $150,000 that was budgeted for Frumming Park, before committing that towards any sort of park purchase, I would maybe want to discuss shifting that towards, where am I looking? Rehabbing another tennis court, because we had looked at Jack Workman Park was a request, so would we maybe be able to get something like that done with that money instead?
Have you included the pickleball courts that are going to go up at Ballpark Commons? Because that might change how we use tennis courts and pickleball courts.
We haven't. Given that those are fee for play, do we include something like that in our inventory? Given that it's a private.
I don't know, I just thought it would take care of some of that pickleball.
It might take care of some, but maybe not all.
You said you haven't really got to Cascade Trail yet. Maybe that 38,000 can be put off for a year.
Yeah, that wasn't a real hot item. I have a big thing of my papers at home where there was a whole bunch of people that petitioned against that the last time. So, I don't know if that's to say people are still around or not, but a lot of people didn't want a trail in the backyard. And I don't know even where you're talking about putting it, but I'm just letting you know that that was an issue.
Different location. This would be at the, I think it's 60th Street, that kind of dead ends into the park.
Mhm.
Basically start there and swing to the west. Next to the trail. This was not,
Before it was swinging to the east.
yeah, before it was like running behind all those homes. That was a different issue.
Where's it gonna connect to?
River Trail. Or the Oakwood Trail. Yeah, River Trail.
There's a lot of floodplain to get through there.
Yeah, that was, so, for everyone's benefit, the proposal was, is, hey, we'd like to go a trail from point A somewhere along the trail. We're willing to work with the commission to try to minimize, or the Parks Commission, to try to minimize the impact of floodplain, wetlands, trees, EIEIO, and they just flat out said no because they said there's floodplains, wetlands, and trees. So,
Yeah, so I'm just thinking if that's gonna be a really challenging project. You've got one opportunity for this larger part. Once it's gone, it's gone. And you got a proposal on the table, and this gentleman wants to know where we're headed. So,
it's very special development in the district, ask me about it.
So I guess the question is, do we recommend purchasing, are we looking at 40 acres or we've heard up to 75?
Does the 75 go all the way to 112?
I believe so, yes.
It does.
It does. So include what you
It's
proposed.
it's an L shape, 34 acres, runs east and west, and then there's a 40-acre piece that runs north and south.
Yours, Is the back of the building?
Yep, the L comes off of 112, and then it goes down.
So it's more like a gamma. All right. Because at one time you proposed it looped around to the south.
Correct, because it really, quite recently, every one of these properties has been for sale. Each property that we're talking about today has been listed for sale. And so at one time, we controlled the 34 acres, 40 acres, and if you scroll up, there's another 15 acres that I believe is still for sale. 20 acres right there is for sale. So I mean, these properties have been historically available for years.
So it's 74 acres is what?
40, it's 74 change.
Right.
Yep.
Erin, could you just come a little closer to Oakwood Road? I'm just looking at other opportunities. Are there parcels down there? Could we purchase that? I don't know what property that is.
That property right there was for sale about 5 years ago.
This one?
Yeah.
Or to just kitty corner to the northwest. That one. How many acres is that? 15 acres? You know, just to get access to either
That's where the
112 or
chicken,
Oakwood.
where the chicken coops are. That's where the monks are.
So now you're talking about changing the master plan and everything? Well, it's in the land, now you're talking rezoning and thing too, so.
Do you have the master plan over there?
It's not on this, but I have the map.
Yeah, so we can see exactly.
So this is the map that was produced as part of the Parkland acquisition study, which shows kind of broadly the southwest quadrant. You can see the future land use here. What is this future land use? I'm sorry. Yeah. With, now the mouse behind me. With recreation on down to, and then this is the waste management lands that we've discussed as part of this corridor. So Commissioner Haley touched on the fact that there's kind of a plan to have natural areas that connect back up. So, and then the Franklin Savannah. So it's 1, 2, 3, this is a residential lot, this one, and that one.
So 2 out of those 5 parcels that you point to are residential properties. The one directly north of 34 acres has a home on it, people live there. And then the 20 acres off of Oakwood, I believe there's a home there, private property. Someone's planning something there. So, because it's green doesn't mean that it's necessarily available.
So what the Alderwoman is referring to, just to clarify, so there's a couple of policies that the city has that designate the future land use. So that's the result of the comprehensive master plan, the city's broader plan for the city as a whole. So it includes park uses, commercial property, that kind of thing, and those are decisions that it's an iterative policy that the city undertakes typically every 10 years. It then guides any future zoning changes for a property. So a property may currently be zoned residential, but if someone wished to change the land use of the property, you would then have to match the underlying comprehensive plan designation. Or you could amend the plan. So the applicant has requested to do that. That request has been discussed in other bodies and is not really germane to this discussion, but is worth noting that that's happening, and kind of why we're here now is because they want to develop the property and have not been able to up to this point. So because the city had a different plan for it. So yeah, and you would also have to amend the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan if not all of that land was developed, then where will that park go? That is a question this commission will have to address. So,
We don't know how much the land is going to cost. We don't know how much we're supposed to knock off.
We have an idea, but I don't think I'm at liberty to distill that, so, but again, we're interested in what projects you really don't care about on this list, and maybe we could see if we could salvage that too. And again, it's kind of an algebra equation, so, 71% of this cost, trying to move that around, so you give up a lot of money when you go from 71% to 36%, so we just need to find out if there's enough projects you're willing to throw up on the axe. If so, then we can possibly make it work. If not, then...
I wouldn't want to just throw that as the park's only option, because the council has the ability to borrow funds if we want to really buy the property. So I want the park commission to know all options that are available to them, and they should make it based on planning, everything that surrounds this whole thing, including what I think is a really important part of all this is how many public meetings we had, and that's been marked in the plans, I know as far back as 2002. So we're talking 20 years of public input that people have said we need to have this as a parkland, and now that was one of my things at the council meeting. It's like, wow, how did we go from 20 years of planning, not acting, not doing anything, to now, tonight we're going to rezone half the parkland without having any public input. So I would think that if you're going to try to rezone and not do what the plan is, then you should come up with another plan, what you're going to do to replace all of this, and how you're going to work around all that, and how you're going to have your public hearings to do rezoning. You're stepping in a pretty complicated project, and it's not just, what projects you don't do.
Go ahead, Glenn.
So, to finish up what I was saying, so the administrator / interim finance director, if indeed borrowing is the option, then that would be the option she'd have to recommend. She'll come back if the Parks Commission is only willing to give up these projects, maybe they only get you just a small fraction, then that may be the option to go to Common Council and say, we need to increase borrowing. And but if there is a way to do it with the existing budget, I think that's preferable. I haven't yet to hear Common Council get excited about raising taxes and increasing borrowing. So they work pretty hard on the borrowing schedule year after year. So very interested to know your thoughts. Are there any things on this list that you're willing to give up and take off the list? And that'll give us some tools to work with to try to work the magic and make the math work.
Sure. Okay.
The ones we just talked about came up to about $243,000.
And that's the resurfacing and the cascade and the dog amenities and the cricket and the Frisbee.
Yes.
Sorry,
What about the trailhead at school property? Are we going to be using city money on school property? Because I didn't think that was allowed.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your list again?
The resurface of the tennis courts,
Okay.
cascade trail, dog amenities,
Okay.
cricket and Frisbee.
Okay. And so we'll know some things like research.
Well, you can probably cross off the ice rink for now too, because we weren't really planning on doing that, I didn't think, till next year anyway.
So I do have a common council action for tomorrow night. That's only $6,000.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but
So it's
That's what's purchased springtime for the fall.
purchase that for that tomorrow night. So, but if you want to take that off, now's the time to speak up, and I'll mention that tomorrow night. So it's common council.
I would leave it on. I don't think $6,000 is going to make a difference.
So, and then point out just things that you take off, that they have different impacts to park impact fees. So for example, the framing has no impact to impact fees. So we do have to spend those funds, otherwise we're going to have to figure out how to start refunding dollars this year.
So what about the borrowing for $152,000 on school property? And if you're gonna borrow, I'd rather see if I borrow for the city park land than if it's a school park. School land.
All right, let's try to focus in on everything here and see where we're at as a board or as a commission. So from our understanding, you're looking for a recommendation from us on whether we should go ahead with purchasing the land. I think as a whole, knowing that if we want to come up with the funds, we have to eliminate some items from the list, and I don't think we can make that decision in the next 10 minutes. I'd like to table this until April to see what we could pull off of the list to try to give us some more money. I think all of us agree, are in favor of looking to purchase the land. I think it makes sense down the road, but we also have to look and see what else yes, go ahead.
Yep, so with that in mind, if that's the commission's choice, please let me know what questions you have about the financial information. And then I would ask the question if you would the commission like to notice this as a closed session item for the next meeting?
I feel that if we're going to start to talk about financial items, we should probably send it to a closed session. Yes, sir.
Is there a chance, though, I mean, I know that there's a lot that goes into this discussion, but is there at least a chance that the Park Commission can send a message to the council that you're in favor of purchasing 75 acres or 40 acres? I mean, there's people that are hung out that this is really important to. Most importantly, the person who owns the land. So, like, tabling it, I mean, we've had this discussion since we applied for our, the first time we met with the city, which is probably going on close to a year. So this really has to come to a head at some point.
Sure.
And I'm just asking that it not get tabled, but maybe some kind of communication to the council that, yes, the Parks Commission is interested in acquiring more land or portion of. I mean, I know it's a tough spot to ask, like, what project would you be willing to sacrifice and all that. I mean, that's a lot of detailed conversation, but at least the general feeling of we want more parkland or not.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's just fair for the folks who are involved on the other end of this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the onus in the financing really rests with the Finance Committee and Council. But I do feel that Parks, as a commission, we should make at least a recommendation of, yes, we do want either 40 acres or the full 73 acres. What do we want? You know, and if we don't want it, then are we telling council we would prefer to go through the process to change our comprehensive master plan and release that lands for other development? You know, is it, and I get frustrated on several levels with this because yes, it should have been dealt with years ago, especially before we got to the place where we are with our park impact fee money and kind of under the gun to get that spent. You know, like we said, it's been part of the plan for how many years? And there's been no action to implement that plan while we have individuals who maybe had been counting on this land for their retirement. Now they're kind of like, well, where do we go? What do we do? Maybe we should have had something out there at those points in time earlier and reaching out to those property owners saying, you know, maybe we'd like a right of first refusal to purchase that land when you're willing to sell so that we could add that to our parks inventory. And I think that's something I'd like to see from us going forward. If there's other parcels out there that we'd like to purchase, letting people know we're interested. When you're ready to sell, let's talk about this, you know, so that we don't leave property owners to a certain degree hamstrung. Because
that's what the zoning is, though. That's what the zoning is. So when they come in, they know that right away. And when we put together the entire master plan, it was all publicly noticed.
Now, some of those people, though, have been on that land since prior to any zoning in the city, some of those families. But, you know, and many of that, it was their grandparents who had been there when the zoning went into place. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't think that that's entirely an excuse for them either. But at some point, as a city, we do need to decide what we do and we don't want. And that people can at least bank on a plan that we put in place, one way or another, going forward.
I mean, my personal thought is if we are able to purchase these 75 acres with access off of 112th Street, it's more appealing than having a park run through a subdivision from all the issues we've discovered through Pleasantview with complaints about traffic and noise. That would be my initial thought. Also knowing that we don't want to establish any concrete or anything close to the Savannah, and we'd like to leave a natural buffer in that area and look to continue to add this to the system with the proposed trails in the Parkland off of, I guess it would be the east side of the dump when that becomes active, to continue the system and the goal that we have in place. I think it would be worthwhile to continue that, is my opinion, but what does anybody else?
No, I agree with that. And I won't support just purchasing the 40 acres personally.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So I will not support just purchasing the 40 acres.
Okay.
I think we either go 75 or we could always say, I don't want to punt it back to anybody else because it already got punted back to us. Yeah, we want to buy more land, but maybe this isn't the land. You know, we've talked, are there other options? But
Well, I agree if we're going to go for this land, it has to go to 112th. I don't care for this being landlocked bit.
You
We're
know,
going through subdivision. So do we just tell the council, this is what we want, you figure out how to pay for it?
yes, sir.
You have 3 council members here tonight that are listening. I'm here just to get a feel for that as well, to understand what the conversation is all about. So you got 3 of them in the room.
I mean, my other concern that comes with this is with adding 75 more acres of land, can the DPW keep up with maintaining it? That's a concern that I think is a real question and a real struggle.
Well, I think it's the purpose was to take care of a lot of the other parks too, so you would have one more, you know, it wouldn't eliminate all the needs for other ones, but it certainly might help in that area.
And my guess is it would not be fully built out and developed for another several years down the road.
Absolutely.
And is it possible that it could be, continue to be leased out to tenant farmers?
Yeah.
You know, so it is at least a little bit of latent income on it.
Right.
I don't know what the rules are behind that, but.
It's all entirely possible. It's just the only concern is if, you know, there's area that needs to be mowed, that's additional mowing, and if it's not done, then it becomes, you know.
Buckthorn.
Yeah, exactly. Buckthorn and invasives that we're not interested in. Yes, sir.
I know the local farmers that, I mean, they you know, most of the local farmers are doing quite a few acres, so they have a large investment in equipment at a high expense. So in the way of giving up lands, they're willing to, there's many that'll travel 5 to 10 miles with us. 20 miles an hour, my piece will go 18 to 20. It takes forever, you know, because we've done one hay job quite a ways away, but yeah, they're willing to definitely rent that land out. I can't tell you current rent rates, that I don't know. I mean, the last I heard many years ago was in the 80s, and I've heard a lot higher rates than that on a per acre basis. So in that way, and that kind of maintenance on the land, you can, you know, get a farmer easily, or whoever is doing it, he will cry when he has to give it up. And you can always make the options. I mean, there's some of the guys there, like John Pentic, he'll do some no-till. So, I mean, I believe in a lot of coverage on my land. We don't want that erosion. So, yeah, you can get the right guy that do it correctly, and you won't see a change in that condition. You know, you'll have a soil cover all the time. You know, so in that way of the land itself having to be taken care of, it's only until development comes in. So you decide to spend those dollars, you know, for those improvements.
So I guess we need to, I mean, if we're looking to make a decision in April with a closed session on how we want to address this financially, do we want to, as a group, email our thoughts to Marion on what we may look to pull off the list to help cover some of the impact fees, and then discuss further financials in April? If
That's what she asked for.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Fantastic. We need to make a motion or a movement on that, or?
Don't we have to do something for the council, saying we're interested before that?
Is that
No.
something we need to provide, or?
It's up to the commission. I believe we have one more meeting where we might be able to discuss and get more information, but you could also make a recommendation this evening if you feel comfortable doing that. I mean, there's the financial piece, and then there's also just the land use park plan piece. So.
I mean, I personally, I think it's something we'd like to kick the tires on proceeding with, but before we make a decision, I think I need some more financial information.
Okay.
I don't know how you guys feel.
Well, from what I've heard and what I've seen, I don't think we're prepared to make any recommendations tonight. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to discuss it, but based on the comments, I think what you mentioned, Mike, is correct.
But what I'm hearing is that this commission largely prefers the purchase of a full 73 acres as opposed to just the 40 acres. And then ultimately picking up any more acreage, you know, in the future. I mean, that's a little bit beyond what the scope is right now, but
I feel that's the thought. Yes, sir.
Just like a procedure question, if you don't make a motion tonight, this won't go to discussion for council, won't? Isn't that the way it works? If you don't make a recommendation to council, the council's not gonna talk about it for another couple months. Until you make a motion in April for the May meeting, which is
Correct.
March here, I mean, it's a long time. I mean, if there's at least a general feeling that we want to acquire 75 or 40, it would help out to at least get the conversation going at council level.
Sure. Well, I think we've all decided we'd rather have the full amount, correct?
well,
We just have to
then
figure
I would
out the
make a
financial.
motion to recommend to the common council to express interest in the purchase of the 73 acres adjacent to the Franklin Savannah.
As identified in the core.
Yeah, as identified in the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and to direct staff to explore financial ability to do so. Does that make sense?
Direct staff to what?
It's to explore the financial ability for purchase to present to the Parks Commission in April.
Staff to explore financial ability. I lost it.
Would that allow council to take that to a closed session in the first meeting in April? I'm thinking ahead.
Commissioner Council.
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 If we've made that recommendation, could council go directly to closed session and discuss finances?
The council's motion was to have it out until the 3rd, and I think that was deliberate because of the elections.
True.
So if you
True.
try to push it ahead, they're gonna go, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have to be the 2nd of April, I suppose.
But at least you're letting him know that you have an interest in.
Yeah.
I would suggest just what projects to take off or how to fund it may or may not be a closed session, unless you start talking exactly, we could purchase this land for X amount of dollars. That would be a closed session issue, but maybe a question for Jesse on how, the city attorney, on how much what you can and can't discuss in closed session.
So is that your motion then, Sherry? And do we need a second?
We would need a second for that.
I'd second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye, opposed.
The ayes do carry the vote. It's noted.
You should probably state the vote.
Sure. So for the ayes, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, Jen, 5, and 1 opposed.
Any abstentions?
Fantastic. I think we will move on to item E. 2022 Parks Budget Commission request for information on personnel additions, capital outlay fund needs, equipment revolving fund needs, street improvement fund needs, and major capital expenditures to be made with borrowed funds. Park amenities include ice skating rink.
So this was specifically about the ice rink. The city engineer touched on the fact that he, at the direction of the commission, this is a capital item from last year, went and researched and taking forward an option to purchase.
So we, been some concern that maybe this isn't large enough, and I pointed out that the department's request was $60,000, and we approved was $6,000. So it is what it is. 40 by 80 is what we're looking at. It appears to be a nice blend of something sturdy enough that could last. It does have some flexibility. It does have the ability where you can actually add pieces to it to make it larger in the future should you want to. And I think your idea was, there's been a lot of questions which parks are going to go in. I think your idea is probably will direct us which park. It sounds like it's going to rotate each winter. We'd like something much bigger and beefier, but for the budget, that's what we have. And maybe 40 by 80, maybe that's a good size to try it out. And if the thing is wildly popular, then maybe instead of replacing it or adding on to it, maybe just add a second one with a bigger budget, depending on the call. But if nobody uses it, then you know that too, and you didn't waste a lot of money. So that'll be at Common Council tomorrow night for a purchase.
Okay.
Easy Ice, I think, is the company that we're looking at.
Sure.
They give a 50% discount to municipalities, so $5,300 and some. We added rounded corners and we added bumpers, so people won't get hurt when they fall. On the edge, not.
Yeah.
Everybody puts a little pad in.
That'll work. Fantastic. And then I believe there was one item D that I have the old sheet with me that was added. That was purchasing or looking at Parkland on 95th and Loomis.
It was brought to our attention that There's some lots for sale. As you are aware, this is a recently acquired, we're calling it Water Tower Park with the hope of coming up with a better name eventually, but.
Glenmore Park.
That's not a thing. But these parts of the land, this, which is a little over an acre, and then also we looked into these parcels, and I don't really know about that, so. A couple of things to be aware of. There is a conservation easement over, so this lot is, has this water body, and there are a lot of wetlands there, so there is a conservation easement there, which I'm not totally sure about the dimensions of that. I don't have a copy of it, but that would obviously restrict the kinds of development that could go there. This portion of the city had a planned park for it, which the purchase of Water Tower Park has satisfied the court for this part of the city. However, there obviously are some potential benefits, which, you know, you could see the connected nature of this. There are a few parcels in between Water Tower Park and what's currently available. Yeah, so, and then Glenn has a little bit more details about the individual parcels.
So the Lemke parcel, the 1.34 acres, show that. Yeah. That is currently for sale, listed at $199,900, so just shy of $200,000. It was listed for sale since 2018. Originally at $199,900, prices varied up and down before relisting at $199,900. It's a 60-foot wide egress-egress easement directly across from Brindley Park Drive. So if you look at the map, there's the post office right there, right? Yeah. So the post office right across, that's where that property would be.
Is that where the guy sells vegetables? Up north, okay.
There's 6.21 acres owned by Franklin Center LLC. I think that's a John O'Malley related entity. Conservation easement, floodplain, wetlands covering significant portions of property. The 18.53 acres, which is the larger parcel. Again, there's a sign for there's a sign on the property that's O'Malley Investments for sale or lease. Tyler Feinlich, my assistant city engineer, he tried to call it, and it was a defunct phone number, but it's an O'Malley property. Conservation easement, floodplain, wetlands covering a portion of property. And so just, like I said, O'Malley property. We don't know how much.
Yes.
This was my idea. I saw the signs for sale, so I went walking back there, and I walked around the lake and down through part of the wetlands, but part of it's farm field. It's not that wet. What? It said for sale. And then I went through all the way through to, I thought I thought the whole piece adjoined the water tower. And I've always been looking for a lake in this city that we could have a fishing pier and like Scout Lake. And that's such a nice clean lake, and go back to the lake. And the lake it's clean around it, you know, it's like, it freezes to the edge, it's not all full of cattails, and I thought it would be great for ice skating. So this was my thought. I just think we need a lake here someplace.
So just to orient yourselves, Water Tower Park, here's the southern line of that. This parcel goes all the way back. I'm trying to see who owns this one. Mueller. So I guess you could
I didn't realize
perhaps
those
chop
were
part of this
part of
off
it.
to make that connect, but yeah, they don't physically connect. I'm sure everything's for sale at the right price.
Chairman, I have some information on this property.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. It's called the Crossroads Trade Area. And this plan was put together with the understanding that that was not a developable parcel anyway, and that it would be incorporated into a larger plan. So if you scoot up down to the intersection, you'll see that this is the crossroads. This is our most major traffic area in Franklin. And so the idea was all these different concepts that would show things like, you know, you could have a restaurant, sort of like an Okachi Lake or something, where you could have a boardwalk and a restaurant that would overlook. So it would all be like more business and retail. And since the land isn't developable as it is, then it would be incorporated into that plan, and so the city wouldn't have to necessarily purchase it because it already has a conservation easement on it. So I guess I would like to see a bigger picture again, the whole concept pulled together, and maybe studying up on the these different concept plans that have already been put together for the whole Crossroads area, because there's a lot of work that went into it. And in the back of it is a massive amount of public comments and ideas about that intersection. But you know, on the surface it looks great to have a water body. I think there are only 4 natural body lakes in all of Milwaukee County. That's not actually considered a natural lake. It's a dug out wetland that peat was removed, and that's how it was created. But Monastery Lake is one, Culpmire Lake. I think there's only 4 in Milwaukee County that are actually natural. So,
It must have been an awfully long time ago that it was dug out.
Yes, it was Del Siebert had the contract, I think, back then to dig that out. It is still around. So
What's depth of water? I've never seen anyone fishing on that body of water.
No,
It should be abnormal, because all bodies of water have fish. Even the creek, Ryan Creek, will have bluegills, and even though it dries up.
Well, as they said, they'd be trespassing. That doesn't apply to me. I've walked every field in the city.
Fantastic. So taking a look at this, what is everybody's kind of thoughts on this?
I thought it was called Evans Pond, and then Glenn told me, no, Evans, that wasn't. Evans Pond is behind the condos there. But I know I used to go there. My dad would take us there when there were geese, when I was really little. So it must have been an awfully long time they dug it out, because I'm awfully old. But, you know, there were never geese around here in those days, and so it was an event, and everybody from St. Martin's would go down there to see the geese on the lake. Anyway, Glenn said it has no name.
No name I'm aware of.
So, what?
I'm not aware of a name. It may have a name, but I don't.
Well, I thought we could start calling it.
Water Tower Lake?
There we go.
I thought it was O'Malley Lake.
I thought Olson Lake. That way we'd get it through the council.
All right. Well, I guess taking a look at this, since it doesn't really connect and meet the needs, do we want to bypass looking at purchasing this for the time being? Or?
But we have
I
to
think we
have
need a
lake
lot more
one day.
information before we can vote on that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to incorporate it into it. You know, this is supposed to be our sort of civic center area, and if you could incorporate it in, you could end up with a park and have the lake. Maybe you can do a paddle boat around it, but you have more of a retail or business, or even, I don't know what the concepts are all laid out here, but you could have it developed as part of a larger plan for the whole community and not have to worry about spending your parking taxes to buy a wetland that already has a conservation easement on it.
Well, the for sale signs are there. I'm sure there'll be condos along
You know, you've been there
Loomis
for
Road.
20 years.
What? I mean, I like the concept.
Yeah.
I do like the concept.
Do you guys want more information on it, or?
If you say it's not developable, not able to develop it, what's to become of it? I mean, there'll just be condos all around it, right?
Well, doesn't have to be
The lake
condos.
will still be there, so maybe at another time we could revisit it and put a pier in.
Where can we find a copy of that?
We should have it.
The conservation easement?
No, he wanted a copy of the Crossroads plan.
Yeah, that'd be good for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you send that out and then we can
Yeah.
think more about it. I don't think we're in any position
No,
tonight.
not at all. I've never heard of this binder. So
Right, right.
That's all news.
Yeah, I haven't reviewed it directly, but I do know that it incorporates a broader vision for that intersection, and that, take my mouse back, there's been a few different development proposals. This is obviously been discussed many times, but there's nothing submitted to the department at this time, and not totally clear when that will happen, but that plan includes, like, the drafts of it that we've seen have always included public space, so it's valuable to know that then there is a larger thought process that there would also be public space, even if it's like, these are public spaces potentially on private property, so, I will get you guys a copy of the Crossroads.
I think we should just as a city buy that whole corner and put a tit on it and develop it, get our park, and, I mean, that's what we should be doing, instead of going way out nowhere and develop what we've got close in the population.
Fantastic. So should we table this until April, and Eric can review the binder and go from there? Sounds wonderful. That being said, our next meeting date would be April 11th. And if there's nothing else, at this time we'll call the meeting to an end.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll see everybody in a month.
Who's second?
Barry.